Well, the layout you see here is part of a grant application for funding for redevelopment of part of a school precinct. And if you notice here, and we select the floating viewport, we have a scale value of, we can set 300, 200 we could try. 300 is not an approved scale, and you can see it doesn't quite fit. So let's imagine we'd like to present this information at a scale of 200, and the best way to tackle that is to rotate the view. So if we double click in here and move to model space and change our view, we can just rotate what we see and click there. You don't have to be too fussy about getting this nicely squared off, because when we display on the layout, there we are, we've squared things up, and we can pick the view and change its angle. It's currently 269, so we can make that 270, and the view is now nicely squared off. So I could, and we'll try it, just check our view scale of 200, and it all works nicely. We need to do a little bit of moving things around by moving the lower zone closer to the top zone, but we could do that if we by just creating a new floating viewport under there. So let me do that. We'll add a viewport, and we'll make it about the size we want, and then double click in there, and we're interested in, let's say, this zone, which is the grasses and ground covers on the right. So we'll again rotate it. Even though polar is on, it doesn't quite snap as easily as I would like. I can probably bring that down like so and incorporate the legend, and then let's just display that. So now we've rotated that one. We might want to change and just take the legend out for the moment. And I'll double click and go in there. So it takes a little bit of adjustment, and display it on the layout, and set our scale at 200 in there. It still may have to jiggle a little bit. I really didn't need to bring that in, because I need to be of about that length. Like so, and I'll display that on the layout. Now what I'm doing is comparing this area to the top here and the area at the bottom. I've got it at a scale of 200, and if we zoom in on it, we can see here's all the tags for the shrubs and ground cover. So what I can now do is just return here, and we'll move up and double click it. So we're interested in just getting that zone and displaying that. And we can now move this floating viewport and pop it in like so. I can tidy things up a little. And display. I just want to check that we've still got a scale of 200, which we've lost by me adjusting things. There's our scale of 200 for the top section, and we've got a scale of 200 for the bottom section. We could go there and just move like so, and apart from the grasses and ground cover heading, we've we've achieved our aim. So the design now is sitting horizontally at an approved scale. And I'll just set the colour of this one to 255, and that's starting to look a little bit better. Now the next trick, or the next thing to do, is we clearly need some labels for roads and the path and so on, and we need to incorporate the legend into this diagram here. So we might well grab both of these floating viewports and move them across like so, and we've got room to pop a legend in there now. So same trick, add a viewport, first corner here and there, dive in there, and there's our legend. And that will sit quite nicely. Let's again make that colour white, so white on the background won't show. So our new sheet, larger sheet with a fixed scale of 200 is now working quite well. Our major problem that we want to overcome is the text on the centre. The text is placed with the auto label tool in the centre of each symbol, and clearly we want that oriented horizontally. So let's take a look at how we might do that. Well, you may have noticed that if we zoom in here, grass, as the word ground covers, is obliterated. It's outside the floating viewport. So I'll just go back into model and just compare this text, which has a width factor of 1, and this text, which has been left at 1.2. So they really should be the same, and hopefully then when you go back into layout they line up relatively nicely. The next thing that we want to include in this layout is some form of scale, and if we go back into the model and select, this is a 10 meter scale bar, and this is a little north indicator, and it would be sensible and a good idea to include those in the in this presentation as well. Even though we'll edit the file in here and we'll change the scale from 1 to 500 to 1 to 200, we want to have a scale bar, and the scale bar certainly helps the construction team. So what I've done is create a new floating viewport, set its scale to 200, and then if we go in here, you can see if I zoom out, we just have another box, but this time we've left it horizontal and we display it on the layout. We don't want to spin that and have a vertical scale bar. So again, as per usual, we will set the colour of the floating viewport to white so it doesn't show. So while I'm at it, I'll pick the block, get in there and edit the block and change that to 1 to 200. And then close the block editor. You may notice that the information about the client and the site disappears. The reason for that is that I've put a couple of rectangles in there and filled that with white. Okay, so we are reaching an interesting point. We do have floating on the side, because we've rotated that floating viewport, it's capturing the scale bar and north point. That's not going to be a problem if when we print this drawing we just print to paper. So now it's time to grapple with that problem of how do we easily rotate the text. Well, in order to put some text labels in the center of each symbol so we can identify the plant symbol, what I've done is taken the two outlines, the two bits of the design, and in fact rotated them. So now when we zoom in, everything is oriented correctly. I've created a new layer, and there they are. Everything looks fine. We go back to model space, and I have a look at layers. I've taken the original auto label and renamed it horizontal. Now I'm going to run the label auto label tool again and stamp text in the center of the labels, but it'll create another L-auto label layer. So let's cancel from there, we'll move up a little, and we'll run we need to be in model space, and we are. So gCADPlus, apply a code in the center of all selected. So let's grab all of these tree and shrub symbols. We'll respond to the prompts. We've selected the plant symbols. We'll make the text 400, and everything's done. The text has gone in. Let me escape from there, and now we can see the text sitting on top. The text in this area here needs to be smaller, so let's run auto label again, and we'll grab that group, hit enter. This time make the text half that size, and we'll make it 200. So a new layer should be formed. Let me unselect all. I'll save it because you're asking gCADPlus to do a lot for you here, and good idea to keep saving as you go along. Let's go into the new layout, and we zoom in. There's our text identifying each individual species. If we select the piece of text, notice that it's on that auto label, and color is being inherited by whatever the color of the layer is, and it's in a style called standard. You might want to change that to, say, Arial narrow, and now the text stands out just a little more, but you'd have to isolate all the text on the auto label layer. Let's do that. I'll just save again, being cautious. Let's isolate that auto label layer, and there they are, and we can select all of that text and change its style to Arial narrow, and then if we go back to layers and turn all use layers on and OK it, now when we look at layout 4, I think the text is standing out quite neatly as it is in this instance here. You can still identify all of these plants, and we can incorporate the plant schedule. We might even have enough room to put the plant schedule here. If we pick that layer, we can move it up a little, and I could even move the each zone a little closer together and possibly find enough room to put the plant label. So in one design, we've got our text sitting vertically on a vertical system, and we've now got text horizontally. So you can use these different floating viewports. You can even control visibility of layers within a floating viewport if needs be. And so we're making progress on being able to display this. I want to move on to another video now and show how you might integrate some of this with the learning outcomes for some of the students at the school.